What's up, WWE Universe? This is Lee from Champions Chat, and this is the next installment in the series, Why I Loved, which is basically based around the crossovers that WWE's done. We just talked about the WWE Zombies crossover, which I think is probably the king of all the crossovers that they've done. Mutants, if they would have kept it going, I think could maybe hold a candle to that. But right now, Zombies is the best. But as much as I love Zombies, my favorite properties growing up when I was a kid were He-Man, Thundercats, and I doubt we're getting a Thundercats crossover, although if I could will that into existence, and Ghostbusters. And we did have a big Ghostbuster crossover in this game, right? So it was a limited time event. You can see right here we got John Cena, Roman Reigns, Steve Austin, Hogan, and Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I really thought they were going to do Becky Lynch as Janine Melnitz, but we didn't get that, and that's fine. I really thought we were going to get a part 2 that was like based around the kids' Ghostbusters, and maybe they just straight up put Paul Rudd in the game. Like, Paul Rudd as a person just deserves to be in every franchise, so why not? But let's talk about the Ghostbusters crossover. A couple things I loved, and one or two things that I distinctly, in hindsight, now don't love. So the first thing I loved was the very first Zorro video I ever saw was the one where he made the video about John Cena Ghostbusters being the best free-to-play character ever in Champions. And in the moment that this was released, the Ghostbusters crossover, that was absolutely true. Like 100% absolutely, it was true. He was the best. They have not done anything that brings him back into relevance, but around that 6-star bronze time frame, if you had Ghostbusters Cena, you could win every match, every time, instantly. It was incredible. So shout out to Ghostbusters Cena, the original best free-to-play character ever, although time has not been kind to him. But he's got the Ray Stantz gear on, right? He's got the binoculars. I loved how accurate they got to be with, even, I know the logo, like, it's a small thing, but just having the branding on it was really cool. Having the poster artwork where it actually had, like, the crossbars across. I love that. Like, it made it look like it was one of their ghost traps, which I loved. Again, the actual Ghostbuster outfit. All of this, super cool. Plus, look, there's the actual Ghostbusters logo. Like, I just loved it. Loved it. And I loved this guy. Now, for most people in the community, this was all you got. So the thing I don't like as much about the Ghostbusters crossover is it was very inaccessible to most of the community. I actually ended up getting this Roman Reigns, and he was really good for a minute or so. I think he's the Peter Venkman of the group in this one. I'm pretty sure, like, that's kind of his role. Maybe he's the Egon, but I think Austin's the Egon. I don't know. Maybe he's the Egon. He's kind of stoic or whatever. But if you didn't at least get him, another down. Oh wait, that's another channel. That's What Culture. Would be this moment. First off, it's before they actually did moments that work universally, and now they've kind of trapped themselves where almost every moment has to be universal. It's really only good for Faction Boss and a little bit for tours, but if you didn't get at least one more Ghostbuster, you don't have this moment. So, like, I do have this moment, but Rusty talks about frequently how on his roster, it's forever just going to sit there in the unoccupied category. I'll get to that when we talk about the Rocky crossover event, because I don't have the Rocky moment, so it forever sits in my moment drawer, as you can't do it. But yeah, I ended up getting Roman Reigns. He was, at the time, one of my best strikers, and definitely my best Roman Reigns by far until the other striker Roman Reigns came out. But yeah, he didn't last super long either in terms of how they built him. The two that were the most rare, well, I should say actually three. Steve Austin Ghostbusters. I think he's Egon, but he might be Venkman. Maybe, I don't know. He's definitely one of the two. But yeah, this guy, I remember there was a dude who played the game called Flip Mad Dog. He retired from the game, but Flip, there was one boss battle where Professor had made his videos on like who to use, and it ended up being the absolute best one was Steve Austin Ghostbusters, but nobody would have thought it. And so Flip Mad Dog was like, hey, have you seen this? And like he could one-turn the boss. Triple Yellow, I think, was his moveset. Yeah, I don't have him. Never going to get him. We'll talk about that in just a moment, too. And then there was Stay Puft, and I'll save Hogan for just a moment. Stay Puft is Andre the Giant. Like, you just watch his animation. Yep, he's Andre. They built him on the frame of Andre the Giant. But look at how big he is. I love him. Like, I would have loved to have gotten him. He was somewhat accessible to the community, but still very expensive. I didn't get him. I wish they would get the license back just so I could, because this is one that I was like, what other game could you have Snoop Dogg fight a giant marshmallow? Like, literally, what other wrestling game is there for that? But, yeah. And then the one I need to talk about just a little bit, I hate that we're having to talk about, I'm talking about him so much right after he just passed in real life, but this was a weird one. Hogan, so there was a toy line, and it was all those other ones that you saw, and The Rock. And The Rock was the Winston Zeddemore character, right? Winston is a black man. The Rock is historically the first black African-American world heavyweight champion in WWE history, although not in the global, because Ron Simmons was. But they gave the Winston role to Hogan, and it does almost look like they darkened him a bit, which is... I don't know. There's just thoughts about that. This is the only Hulk Hogan that I will never have in the game, and it makes me sad. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. He is still super relevant. He's in terms of like his ability to fight. He's got some really, really good moves. This did open up the Legends era a little bit, because you had a Legends era Austin, a Legends era Rock, before they did the 8th anniversary, 7th anniversary, where they did those. But yeah, that was a miss, especially because they had a Rocky crossover and didn't put Thunder Lips in it. And then they did a Ghostbusters crossover and weirdly took out The Rock, but put Hulk Hogan in it. So that is just weird. What's up, Pat is way fly? Oh, Pat is way fly. Yeah, patty cake. Sorry. So I'm sad for that, and I'm definitely sad for the loss of Hogan. The other thing I don't like about the historical run of the Ghostbusters now, and I actually don't even have them on my Candy Store account. They put them on the Twitch account when we were doing live Twitches for the main channel, and you had to log in specially to the one account that had everything. This is my Candy Store account as official CC with WWE Champions, but it doesn't have the things. It doesn't have all the things. And the things it doesn't have include the Ghostbusters plates. The Ghostbusters plates are some of the most powerful plates in the game. But because they put the Ghostbusters logos on them, when they lost the rights to Ghostbusters, they lost the ability to use those plates. At least that's my understanding or theory on it, right? And yet, I would love to have the Ghost Whopper plate. I would love to have the Phantasm plate. I would love to have all of them, any of them, to be quite honest. They're freaking phenomenal. So good plates. And I had a poltergeist moment there for a second. But they're so good. So, if there were a Ghostbusters 2, Secret of the Ooze, that's Turtles 2, but applies. I would like to see a few things. One, I would like to see the Ghostbusters plates brought back and rebranded. Or if the Ghostbusters event can't ever happen again, which I would assume it can't, then please there's got to be a way we could just reskin the plates and re-release them. I think the community would win with that. But let's say there was a Ghostbusters 2 event. Who do we need to add? Well, we need Becky Lynch as Janine Melnitz. If not her, Alba Fire. Alba Fire might actually even fit better in that look and feel, right? So yeah, I would definitely have a Janine. We need Vigo the Carpathian, and I think that should be Talatonga, right? Big, scary dude. If not Triple H, you can just give Triple H every gimmick. I think that's fine. That's fine. We need Slimer, and it should be Hornswoggle. I'm just saying, like, we now have a this size character in the game. What fun would it have been if we could have actually gotten Slimer in there? And I'm not taking a shot at short of stature human beings, but like legitimately they had to code Hornswoggle differently because of his size. Like, that's just a fact of the coding in the game. They had to do that. So now they could do something with Slimer. That would have been so fun. Just so fun in there. And then there is the guy. The man that Bill Murray famously said has no penis. Walter Peck. Walter Peck needs to be in this game, and it should be The Miz. The Miz, for one, he has tiny balls gimmick going on for a while, but for two, like, if there were a reboot of Ghostbusters that were starring some WWE characters, I think The Miz would make a great Walter Peck. I doubt they're going to do an entire video game crossover and include that character ever. I would assume it's probably going to be Paul Rudd's character. Yeah. Or, hear me out. Asuka as Zool. Come on. That would be great. That would be awesome. I would love to see Asuka as Zool. The 80s rock chick look. That would be great. Anyway, that's all I've got for this crossover. But I loved it. I loved the Ghostbusters crossover. Did you get anybody beyond John Cena on your roster? Let me know in the comments section. Like the video, subscribe to Champions Chat, and keep tuning in for more reasons why I love so many of the things they've done in this game. That's it for this one. I'll see you on the next one, friends. Bye.